Hi everyone, I'm Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy. I am a soul therapist and an intuitive that connects with the angelic energy. This is my weekly reading where we talk all about what to expect out of the weekly energy. So what can we expect that we're going to be experiencing and that we're experiencing already now, and how we can make the most of it. So how I do this is I tap into the energy I prepare in advance by connecting with the energy of the angels with whatever messages they want me to deliver here for this week. And then we tune into the tarot cards to build upon the messages that they have shared with me. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to start with just acknowledging what's happening. I want to talk about Venus retrograde because we now officially are in Venus retrograde. We shifted into that over the weekend. We are also officially in Leo season. So we're moving out of that more emotional Cancer energy that we've been experiencing. Although I feel like this Venus retrograde energy also has a little bit of emotion, or we're working through a lot of things. So you might find that that didn't lighten up a lot for you. Maybe it lightened up, or it feels a little bit different. At least that's how I'm experiencing it. But it might not be like totally what we typically would expect with Leo season energy, which for me is so much more vibrant and light and fun energy that we can tap into with Leo season. So we can still tap into that energy, but we're in this Venus retrograde until September 3rd, I believe. And so this is an interesting time. It's an interesting energy because it doesn't happen as often. You guys hear me talk about Mercury retrograde a lot, right? Because that happens usually, I think it's 4 times a year. So it happens enough. It happens a lot. And so I talk about that a lot, and that tends to be just a shorter period of time, a 3-week period of time, but it tends to wreak a lot of havoc. But with Venus retrograde, it doesn't happen as often, but it does call us to really go within. And what we're focusing on with Venus retrograde is love, relationships, money, beauty, passion, that kind of stuff. So if we think about retrograde, right? Retrograde is calling for us to do all of those things that we think about that start with the word reflect, revisit. So, all of these things that we're meant to be looking back on, taking a look at, and Venus retrograde is calling us to do those things around this energy of love, money, relationships, those kinds of things. So that's important because you're going to find yourself looking back, reflecting back, revisiting back on the past in some way. This serves a purpose. It serves a purpose to help us to work around I feel like specifically with this Venus retrograde, it's about unhooking patterns, right? Unhooking relationship patterns, especially patterns that are very connected to us, to our trauma bonding, to our past trauma, where we maybe have continued, whether we've been aware of it or not, to keep ourselves stuck in these patterns that we're just like continuing to replicate again and again and again. So I think that one of the biggest things that we're going to find ourselves working on here in this month up until September 3rd is taking a look at where can I unhook myself from these patterns that just don't serve me, right? But if we're not aware of the patterns, we can't make changes to them. So this is also going to be helping us to review these things, to see these things so that we can begin to make changes, or so that we can have the clarity that we need, whatever that is for us. But it's giving us the process to heal some things, to work on some things. And so you may find that even, at least for me, the day that Venus retrograde started, this process started for me. I started to notice, reflecting on so many past connections in my life and just looking at the patterns and how there are some similar patterns within past connections. And by the way, this doesn't have to be love relationships, right? This can be family relationships, friendship relationships, whatever that is. But reflecting back and just taking a look at my role or what I've allowed within those connections, these kinds of things, and doing a lot of processing of that. This also can have a tendency to bring people back from the past in order to give opportunities for healing, or sometimes we even find that people will revisit relationships, right? Sometimes that word is revisiting in terms of renewal, where there's a reconnection within certain relationships. So you want to be careful of that, though. We don't want to get too caught up in like getting so stuck in the past, because I think a lot of people will reconnect with people during Venus retrograde, and by the time Venus retrograde is ending, they're finding, oh, like that wasn't such a good idea for us to get back together, right? So you want to be honest with yourself about the issues that remain. But I also feel like there are opportunities here for reconnections, especially when both parties have healed, where that can be really positive and good. So we're doing a lot of work around that. So just kind of tuning in with yourself and noticing if change has happened. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to get caught up in repeating old patterns. We also don't want to get too caught up in the narrative of what's happening. And what I mean by that is I think that if we allow it, it can really take us into some heavy, dark places, right? Where we're telling ourselves things about, why is this pattern repeating for me again? And jumping to conclusions about what that means for us, when really all that really means is that it's guiding us to show us where we need to make some changes, or where we want to manifest different and better things for ourselves in the future. So I hope that all of that makes sense. So we just kind of want to allow it to be a reflection rather than getting too caught up in it. And I do see us kind of closing out old stories. So maybe where there were stories that were not closed out before, we're closing that out in some way, whether we're healing it, whether we're reconnecting with somebody and changing the way that that's ending. Maybe we're just doing some work around that and allowing that to just close out in a different way, or to allow it to feel closed. I think with Venus retrograde, circumstances that felt unclosed in the past will have opportunities to have some level of closure around them. So I think that that's important to keep in mind as well. Also, we have this Leo season that we've now shifted into, and I do feel like that can start to light a fire underneath us. Although with Venus retrograde, we might be feeling a little bit more slowed down than we typically would during a Leo season, but it's calling us to get out of the house, to connect with people, to experience things, to try new things. And I feel like this is really important for us right now. I think that's a really important balance to this Venus retrograde energy that can feel kind of heavy, that definitely is going to feel like work. Now, when I connected with the messages, one of the most important things that came through is that there are so many people right now who are feeling really frustrated with their progress, right? Feeling really frustrated with the direction that things are going, or, why hasn't this happened for me yet? Or why hasn't this thing that I've been manifesting for years and years and years, why hasn't that happened yet? Why hasn't that come through? And so there's a lot of frustration. And so one of the key things that they wanted for me to deliver is that, yes, you've been waiting, but it's worth the wait. And so that's so important for us to hold on to that. And I think that so many of us are waiting on some pretty big things, but I think that we need to keep that in mind, that we're waiting on some pretty big things. And big things require bigger orchestration from the universe, right? That requires more moving parts. It requires more things being orchestrated in our favor in order for that to happen in a way that's better, in a way that's exactly like what we're manifesting, and nothing less than exactly what we're manifesting. So sometimes that takes longer, and sometimes that is going to require more faith, more patience, and so we have to hang in there. But can we hold that energy of this amazing thing, or these amazing things, this amazing person, this amazing experience that I am creating for myself? It's every bit worth the wait, because I now understand that I now have higher expectations for that. I have raised the bar with the universe, and I understand that amazing things are coming into my experience. So I think that that's so key right now, that we're focusing on that. And in the meantime, our job is to unhook these patterns, right? That's kind of, I think, part of the issue too, is like, yes, we're orchestrating big things, but the other part of that is a lot of these things are waiting on us, right? Waiting on us to do the work, waiting on us to unhook the patterns, waiting on us to make the changes, to take the leaps of faith, to do the thing. So wherever you're feeling called, we're now in this energy of go for it. Move forward with it in some way. And this energy might feel a little bit slower with this Venus retrograde. So it might feel like it's slowing you down a bit, but take steps, right? Even if they're those baby steps, even if you're just continuing to progress little bits at a time, a little bit every single day, can we focus on doing something that's going to make us a little bit better every single day, or to improve upon something that we're working on a little bit every single day? And I think that that is going to move us faster than we even realize. And can we also work on raising our vibration, right? Because some of these high vibrational things that we're trying to manifest, we can't get to, we can't access until our vibration is a match for that. And also, so that we can be able to hold the energy of these high vibrational manifestations, right? Because otherwise that stuff can maybe potentially come in, but if our bodies aren't ready for that, if our vibration isn't ready for that, that's just gonna like come in and then leave again, right? And so we really want to be doing this work and using this Venus retrograde energy to allow us to do this work. I think that it can be really empowering. The other thing that came up when I was connecting with the energy is this concept that our time and our energy is valuable, okay? And so to really think about that, and to really think about how we're investing our time, our energy, our resources. And I think that there's a call right now for us to take a look at that, and for us to weed out anything that's just simply serving the purpose of weighing us down, or isn't where we want to be investing our time and our energy in right now. Where are our priorities? I've found myself over the past few weeks really clearing out a lot of meetings that I had scheduled that I didn't really necessarily connect with, or feel like there was a purpose in it, or didn't understand the purpose, or didn't intuitively feel pulled. I felt really overscheduled with a lot of things, so I cleared out some things that I felt like, okay, that can wait until a later time where my schedule isn't so overbooked. These kinds of things, right? So I've been just making these adjustments, making sure that I'm spending my time and my energy on the people, places, and things that I really want to be spending my time and energy on, especially here. I always say Leo energy is kind of like end of summer energy, right? Where we get into that space where we're like, summer is going to be over in a month and I've got to make the most of it, right? So let me just make the most of it. And I think that that's what we're doing as a collective too, is how do I make the most of my time, my energy, and my resources so that I can experience and love my experience here on earth, so that I can live my life. And I think that that's so important that we're taking a look at that right now. Let's take a look at the cards that we pulled. So the first card that I pulled is the Queen of Wands. Okay, so the Queen of Wands, this is to me that beautiful Leo season energy. This is us tapping into our creativity, tapping into our confidence, tapping into our fire, letting ourselves be excited about life, letting ourselves enjoy life, letting ourselves maybe be more driven, more motivated, and heading in the direction of those things that do inspire us, that do motivate us. I think right now, as we're doing this assessment of our time and our energy and our efforts, that we want to be investing our time and our energy and our efforts in those things that inspire us, that excite us, because that excitement, that inspiration is meant to lead us here. That's why we have it, right? And it's meant to lead us because when we follow those bursts of inspiration, that creativity, that, those things that we feel excited about, that's also supporting us in following our intuitive path, right? It's when we ignore that stuff that we keep ourselves stuck and stagnant. And I think a lot of times we can feel fearful about following in the direction of those things because it means that we might have to make some changes, or probably definitely will have to make some changes, right? And it means sometimes leaps of faith and making adjustments and having to adjust to change and all of these things, but it's worth it, right? The Queen of Wands says always that it's worth it, and she knows that if she can continue to follow on this path, that the wait is going to be worth it, right? And so she just kind of holds that energy. I think that we also need to be confident in knowing that we are creating amazing things for ourselves. And so to keep the faith, to hold the energy, to hold the knowing that we are creating amazing things for ourselves. Knight of Pentacles. This card has come up in so many of the readings lately. This is us planting seeds. This is us trusting that the seeds that we have planted will grow. And this is slow and steady energy, right? It's worth the wait, right? The seeds that you have planted will be worth the wait. Keep following the actions that you're feeling called to take, right? Don't just sit back and let it happen, but also let yourself flow with whatever is wanting to come in and trusting that it may be slow, but it's steady and things are happening and things are progressing, and maybe even taking a look at how much things have progressed for us, how we have so many of the things that even 2 years ago we wanted, and can we hold gratitude in our hearts for that? Because I think that that really is one of those things that helps to fertilize the seeds, right? That helps the seeds to grow, is that gratitude for exactly where we're at. And I think that also here in this time right now, to take that pause and just like holding that recognition and that gratitude for everything that we already do have really helps to foster the other stuff that's coming in. Even just appreciating the time period that we don't have those things, because a lot of times we're manifesting big things for ourselves, but we don't quite understand how much time and energy and effort or time away from our families that's going to require, or how much change that's going to bring in. And that's not a bad thing, but can we also appreciate the slowdown or the time in between before we have all of those things that we're wanting to create? The Four of Pentacles in reverse. This is us. I failed to mention with Venus retrograde, us taking a look at finances, right? I definitely have noticed myself taking a look at my spending and where do I want to make adjustments to that, and where do I want to focus on creating a more solid foundation financially for myself. And I think that this is collective energy, especially with this Four of Pentacles in reverse coming up. Where is your money out of balance? Where is your life out of balance? Where are you out of balance? And what needs to happen in order to bring more balance in? Venus retrograde is a gift for that, in that it's going to show you, right? Nine of Wands. We might be feeling kind of protective of ourselves right now, right? Or to me, this feels like a look back on our wounds. And so if we're not careful, we might be a little too protective of ourselves because we're very aware of the wounds from the past, the heaviness from the past, the things that we still carry from the past. I think that there's an opportunity to work through these things, but we also want to be mindful that we don't use those wounds to create an armor around ourselves, that we instead allow ourselves to recognize the warrior that has been developed within us, but not putting our armor up, to let ourselves be warriors of love and to keep our hearts open as possible, right? And to be open to the possibilities, because like I said, a lot of these things that we're wanting to have manifest, we're actually blocking ourselves from. And sometimes we're blocking ourselves from the heart, right? The Four of Pentacles too is like, where are you blocking yourself? Where are you blocking your blessings? And it might just be because there isn't an openness. There's a fear around, okay, like if these things actually happen for me, what will that be like? Or when these things start to actually happen, we can get overwhelmed and shut down. So we want to make sure that we're not getting overwhelmed and shutting down here in this energy, because it'll block it. And we want to allow it to come through. The next card that we have here is the Two of Cups. So for some, the blessings are coming in, right? I think that this is like, to me, the Two of Cups is like the missing piece. It's that person that is the perfect match, the balance, the yin to your yang, right? It can be the perfect person coming in to support your business in the ways that you're needing. It can be the perfect solution that you're needing for a problem that you've had for a while. It can be the perfect idea coming in that's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need to do to take me to the places that I need to go. So it can be many of these things. It can be this really beautiful, deep soulmate connection, right? So for those of you that are waiting on that, it could very well be that. I think that there's a lot of beautiful energy here as we're allowing our hearts to open in this Venus retrograde to start to make these connections. Now, we don't necessarily want to take a new relationship to a higher level until we're getting into like September a little bit on the other side of this Venus retrograde. But I also say, like, yes, there are rules to retrograde, but I'm a big fan of breaking rules too, right? And if something does come in and it feels right and it's really aligned, you don't have to necessarily wait on that. You just want to make sure that you're reflecting and making sure that you're not repeating old patterns within new connections or within connections that are coming back in. But definitely a lot of opportunities for bringing in soulmate connections, or even just connecting with those things that we need to manifest all of the things that we want, right? The things that we're waiting on. And the last card that we have here is the Hermit card in reverse. So the Hermit in reverse. You might feel called with this retrograde to stay in, and definitely there's going to be more time to reflect. You're going to want to make more time to reflect. You're going to want to take time to tune in with yourself, and it is going to make you feel more slowed down. But at the same time, I think that it's really important right now that we're not shutting ourselves in too much, that we're not missing out on opportunities. This is such a beautiful time to get out there, to have experiences, to connect with whatever this missing piece is for you. And if you are closing yourself out to the world, maybe you're going to miss it, right? We don't want to miss it. So accept opportunities, go to, accept invitations. If you're feeling inspired to have an experience, go out and have that experience this week. I think that that's going to be really helpful, and that's part of doing our part in making these manifestations happen for us. So I hope that these messages resonate with you. If they do, I always appreciate a like, a comment, a share. If you're watching this replay on my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. If you aren't subscribed to my YouTube and you're watching this on my Facebook, make sure you swing by and subscribe there. I share some different things over there sometimes as well. So thank you guys so much, and I appreciate you all. I will see you soon with another video. Take care.